Oh boy, it looks like we have another problem. Ladies and gentlemen, Thiefer Sutherland is back. That's right, Brendan Schaub is back, and he's back at stealing ideas. Just before the Fighter and the Kid podcast aired the other day, UFC commentator and actual analyst Ariel Helwani went on his podcast earlier to say what he thought was going to happen after the UFC's contract was going to end with ESPN. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let Ariel Helwani talk about it, and then we're gonna go ahead and tune in to what Brendan Schaub said on The Fighter and the Kid with Bryan Callen, where he basically plagiarizes once again. But of course, he botches it. It's pretty hilarious. So let's go ahead and check it out right about now.
I wouldn't be surprised if UFC goes to Netflix. UFC has tried to recreate the WWE model, almost 52 weeks out of the year, 7 hours a weekend. All kinds of ancillary weigh-in show, pre-show, post-show. It's almost the exact same thing. One big pay-per-view a month, all of that. They're going to make a killing. And their deal is up at the end of 2025. And their initial deal was for 7 years, $1.5 billion with ESPN. They're going to make, 3x, 4x now for the next deal. They are crushing it. The whole thing is crushing. So fascinating times. And yeah, I was just blown away that they were able to get that done.
I'll tell you what's interesting. Remember, TKO, which owns UFC and WWE, UFC's contract's up end of 2024. So they're going to start negotiating soon. So don't be surprised if you see UFC follow suit like they always do, follow WWE to Netflix. Because Netflix wants live sports. That's what they want. So I'll be surprised if they jump ship from ESPN, which is a sinking ship, and go to ESPN.
You steal our ideas and our contents. You do it to Luke. You do it to Brian. You do it to me. You do it to everyone. You steal our ideas and you sit there and you pass them off as your own, and you even botch it when you do it. You botch it when you do it every single time. You sit there and you rip off our ideas. It's plagiarism 101.
So let me give you a quick play-by-play of how the botch went down. Number one, Ariel says, contract's up, end of 2025. Papa says, contract's up, end of 2024. Number two, Ariel says, moving from ESPN to Netflix. Papa says, moving from ESPN to ESPN. Third botch, Ariel says Netflix. Papa says Negflix. Look here, I'm hearing two unique opinions. Try again, B. But I heard it both ways. Talking about parallel thinking. I guess it's the ESPN to ESPN pipeline. And we all know that Brendan practiced this in the mirror before he went on The Fighter and the Kid that morning, telling himself, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And yet he still sounded redacted. But of course he stole that from Ariel Helwani. The nerve on the guy is amazing. There's no shame at all, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what's interesting, folks. And what's worse is that he butchered the information. ESPN will turn into ESPN at the end of 1800 BC. And you got Bryan Callen sitting over there staring at the ceiling, shaking his head. Mr. Grandpa Rinks wobbling his head at the ceiling like a bobblehead, letting out a like he's sitting there suffering from dementia, imagining if he could only do something a little naughty with another lady for one last time. Bryan Callen had a dementia seizure. Binge juice is dangerous to mental health. And look, everybody, Brendan Schaub may have retired from stand-up, which I don't believe, not even for 1 second. But the real content of Bubba and that whole entire Bubba-verse comes from the actual pod, because on this channel, and even in the subreddit, we discuss the pod here, not the world tour. The world comedy tour that never happened because he constantly cancels all his shows. And let's just put away the stealing of ideas from Brendan, because we know Bubba just goes. But how about that utter lack of interesting from Bryan Callen? And we know the redacted parrot Brendan gets everything wrong. And he strikes out once again, just as Ariel said, like a moronic game of Chinese whispers. but that's our thick boy. And to be fair, I guess Brendan didn't really steal the idea from Ariel Helwani, because Ariel said that after the contract's over, the UFC would probably go from ESPN to Netflix. And then you got Bubba saying ESPN is leaving ESPN to go to ESPN. But I got one question for you, Brendan. How did plagiarizing go? Makes sense. He's got not one original thought in that redacted brain of his. It's hilarious how blatant he is about regurgitating others' thoughts in his own redacted Brendan way. And why does he do it on the same day? The morning of? Again, he has no shame. And Brendan talks about the sinking ship over at ESPN. Oh, really, dude? The sinking ship is your podcasts, plural, and your YouTube channel, and that shitty Toontown. Come on, Bubba. But to be fair, he does know a lot about sinking ships. He's been on many of them, and he continues to jump on them. You see, folks, the key thing Brendan doesn't realize is even if he did not hear Ariel Helwani speak that very same morning, you just know that it's an opinion way above Brendan Schaub's level of thinking in any facet. So as soon as you hear it spill out of his fat, dumb lips, you're like, oh God, you know it didn't come from him. But of course, he botched it. Some would say the botchiest. Others would say the most botchiest. And wow, really, Bubba? ESPN is a sinking ship? Oh, really, dude? What are you, a captain now, Bubba? And why is your right mustache so much longer than the left side of your mustache, Brendan? I swear to God, that was my thought the entire time. I wasn't even thinking about what he was talking about. My brain's thinking about his lopsided mustache. Now, here's some facts I'm gonna spit real quick. Brendan Schaub literally listens to Ariel and Luke's show just before he does the fighter and the kid in his stupid little Schaub show. Then he just parrots what they say and pretends that they're his own takes. It's coming from a guy who said bean cheese, bean cheese, bean cheese, bean cheese, bean cheese. And what's fascinating about everything is he's too lazy to steal correctly. Come on, man. Why are you such a redact? The more shit I see Brendan do, the more hate he deserves. He steals jokes, people's commentaries, ideas, attempts to grift as a comedian, and then pretends to retire, and then only to find out he has another tour coming that he will cancel shortly. He puts no time or effort into anything he does. Brendan Schaub is an effing joke. Yeah, I know it's dicey. The main thing here is I just hope for the UFC when their contract is up that they can get away from ESPN and make their shift to ESPN, because that would be blockbuster. And I can only imagine brain dead or brain dumb trying to memorize what he heard Ariel Helwani say earlier that morning. He must have had the same facial expression when he was trying to do the math when Theo Vaughn spelled slaves, S-L-A-V-E-S, murmuring to himself, ESPN to Netflix 2024. Dabba-doo-dee-dabba-dooba. Okay, got it. This just means Bubba's never had an original thought, nor will he ever have one. And people wonder why Schaub gets hate. I know, that's a very difficult question. Anyhow, what's more important is what you think about the whole situation, so sound off in the comment section down below. But hey, everybody, please do me a big favor, huge favor I'm asking you. Please hit that subscribe button, like, and also push that notification bell if you would. I would really, truly appreciate that, so thank you very much for all the support. But for now, I'll see all of you in the next video.